Welcome to Property Lounge Ladies, where real estate meets real life. We're three women from different markets, different backgrounds, and different experiences coming together to talk about all things real estate, the wins, the challenges, and everything in between.
Welcome back to the lounge. And today we are going to be talking about Zillow again. It's really funny because, we only have a few of these episodes recorded, but apparently we already have followers because somebody contacted me and sent me some information regarding Zillow. So they sent me screenshots. I'm not going to say who it was or where they were, but I did have permission from them to talk about this. So she sent me screenshots and it looks like they have all kinds of, it says rankings all time, agent performance all time. And then she sent me another screenshot of basically the recording. And she says that it was incredibly stressful because we were always recorded on graded on our performance and calls. And calls would come in at any time during a certain window, and you could be driving or shitting, or you had to pick up, and you had to pick up for your answer rate. And then they were, it was all posted with all of the team members. She was on a team that did Zillow Flex, and everything was right there for everybody to see. And then she also sent me a recording, like the recorded. And I think it from what it looks like, I didn't confirm with her, but from what it looks like, maybe everybody could also hear the recording of your call. And she said we also had our conversation percentage posted too. All the data was there for scrutiny. She said it was awful.
Yeah, I know on my team, because I was a team lead, I was told that only I had access to everybody's calls. So I don't think the other team members did, at least back then. That was in 2022. So I don't know.
Maybe it was optional. But
it may have been.
On their team,
it may have been.
You could see all of all of the people.
Yeah, it may have been. I don't remember because my memory, you all know, it sucks.
She said this too. Recorded call. We would have meetings with call playbacks and feedback on our performance.
Oh, wow.
Feedback from her, Zillow?
Yep.
Within the team, they would discuss.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Zillow also gave feedback though, too.
I mean, I would expect the team to do that. Like, honestly, if I'm running a team and I'm paying Zillow for leads, I'm going to want the analytics. I'm going to want to know what's happening with these leads I'm paying for. How are they being handled? How are my people speaking on the phone? Where's room for improvement? Because if my rate of return on that is 10%, now I want 11%. So that part doesn't bother me. What bothers me is if Zillow's coming in there like, oh, well, now you could have said this and acted like the listing agent. Now I got a problem.
Well, that seems to be the problem. The problem was that, they were supposed to, or at least in some cases, act like they were the listing agent.
Yeah,
that's the whole problem. They were deceiving. What was that term that they said? The inferences?
Oh, girl. That was
Let me check my tattoo because I said I was going to tattoo it on my arm.
So poetic.
Yeah.
Like I still can't believe how sexy that was.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm going to go find that again and read it.
Oh, no, I have it right here. I told you I had to post it.
Oh, my gosh.
A speculative chain of inferences.
Yeah.
Right. Could you imagine a speculative chain of inferences with no factual support?
Yeah.
Like the audacity is wild to me.
Yep.
Why?
So Zillow somehow keeps getting their name in the headlines.
Of course.
Yeah. I don't know if, I guess for them, they probably have this kind of attitude. You know what? If people are talking about us, it's probably not a bad thing. Oh, who knows?
Yeah.
But they're in the headlines again, and we're getting ready to.
Carol, weren't you saying that they were in the news last week?
Zillow's constantly in the news right now.
Yeah.
They're fighting everybody. It's funny because they just made a deal with Zillow with, a couple of brokerages, and one of them is Compass. Yeah. And at the same time, they're in a court battle with Compass just last month over something else. Like, there's just the madness.
Yeah.
Trying to keep up on it is a lot.
Yeah. And the crazy is like what Zillow is trying to do in terms of like the MLS and how they just really want to like control everything. It's insane.
Everything.
Yeah. Like the audacity. I don't know what their thought process is, but I guess it's about money and about control. And
of course it's about money.
Yeah, of course. So what do you think? I mean, I know it's affecting you guys more like in a different way than it's affecting me.
Yeah.
because you guys were allowed to do coming soons, right? In your MLS?
Yes.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
we weren't allowed. We're not allowed to in Stellar MLS here in Florida.
Right.
I know some MLSs in Florida you could, but not my MLS.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what they're saying. They're saying if you have, because in the listing agreement, the client gets to choose like how they want you to market the property before or after, the whole thing.
Right.
So they're saying, oh, well, you can, even if you can't put it in the MLS is coming soon, you can put it on Zillow.
Yeah.
How is that acceptable?
Right.
Like, how did we get to the point in the world where a website has become like the end all be all of real estate?
Yeah.
And people believe what they're saying. And they're saying, like, the disconnect to me is wild. Because here's the public is over here like, well, Zillow said my house is worth $400,000. And Zillow's over here like, oh, well, that information was based on a chain of inferences with no factual support.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how do you get that type of deniability for the information the public is consuming that you're providing? There's such a disconnect.
Yeah. Isn't it insane too? You know what I find kind of interesting is realtor.com. I don't know. Like they have the name realtor in there. Like you would think, I don't know, like, but no, they get away with it. It's all perfectly like they're not coming up at all in the news.
Well,
because it's trademark. Are you saying because the name realtor is trademark and they get to use it?
Right. That and also just the fact that they're not in the news. So it's just a weird and the fact that the household name is more Zillow than realtor.com. It's like all of it. Like it's just weird to me that Zillow. It's like, shoot.
They get a lot more credit than they deserve kind of thing. Yeah. Well, EXP, it's funny because EXP came out. Leo Pareja, which is the CEO of EXP, came out and he said, at EXP, we believe more visibility creates better outcomes for both buyers and sellers. That's why we are syndicating our listings on a non-exclusive basis to realtor.com, homes.com, and Come Home, which is, I guess, a Google search that is available in some markets. And he said, we believe in open distribution and will share our coming soon data with any portal that accepts it on a non-exclusive basis. And full disclosure, I'm an EXP agent. For many of you, nothing changes. Your MLS already syndicates. For others, this creates a new path to get your listings in front of more buyers. That's funny because, when that whole thing happened with Zillow and they said they weren't going to put any homes that had like a what is it called? Private exclusive, or they were doing pre-marketing elsewhere, like off the MLS. So at some point, Compass came out and they tried to spin it. And they said, I thought it was really interesting. They said that Zillow isn't showing you all of the listings. Like, come to us. We have the listings that Zillow doesn't have. So I thought that was really interesting, but they're basically kind of playing the same game, right?
Absolutely.
Do you know how weird it is to see a bunch of adults running around fighting over who gets to put the listing up? Like I'm not trying to be a jerk, but like seriously, like if I'm not a realtor and I don't work in this community, I am totally laughing at us because I'm like, how do you take any of this seriously? Like we want to be seen as a serious industry, and you mofos are over here arguing about coming soons and the general public doesn't care about any of that. They don't care about any of that. The fact that you do is just really weird. I'm like, we're adults. What are you doing?
It's like middle school mean girls. Like,
exactly. Come on, man. We got to grow up a little bit. I mean, at what point do we stop?
And I always find it funny. At the end of the day, the best thing for the client, which is, the seller and the buyer, the best thing for both of them is for everybody to see all of the listings on the market. I don't understand how they actually sell this like private exclusive thing. How is that better in very, very
while I 100%
small percentage of a small percentage of sales, I understand, but I feel like that they have kind of like built their brand off of, we have this private exclusive. That is never the best way to get the most for.
You want to double end it.
Well, yeah.
That's why they do it. I mean,
yeah.
Like they want to try to have like number one, their brokerage. If EXP
and keep the sale,
they keep it within EXP. They're allowed to market just to EXP. Let's just say, then the EXP is getting to double end the deal and not give any of it to Keller, right?
Yeah,
Listen,
but
this is
that's not what EXP does, just to be clear. But yeah, that's exactly what's happening with some of these other brokerages. And
okay.
but
So
that's
I'm
kind
just
of a
going to say this
disservice. That's a disservice to the seller
To the
because you're
client.
not
Yeah.
necessarily getting them the most. You're keeping things in your pocket for your own benefit, which is a disservice.
First of all, I'm butting in now. Here's the thing.
Let's go, Carol.
Again, right? From an outsider, like kind of looking in, I mean, some people need to feel special. So that has to be part of some realtor's marketing. So if for them, it looks like we'll do it exclusively and you'll be special. Some people need that. So from a marketing standpoint, we are entrepreneurs and we are always looking for our next transaction. We're always looking for that next area of growth. Somebody saw this as an area of growth and kudos to them because it worked. It worked so well. Look how big it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So why are we acting like children? Like, are you, this is business. Like, and we're over here like, oh my God, that hurt my feelings. Like, are you like, listen, I pay a mortgage. That hurts my fucking feelings. Are you kidding me?
I think also is like these exclusive listings probably are a little bit more popular and maybe even understandable when it comes to really high price point listings and luxury listings. Because if you have a $20 million house, you may not want your listing, your house on Zillow, on the MLS. You want to attract certain kind of buyers. You don't want Tom, Dick, and Harry walking through your house.
Exactly.
For those listings, it makes sense to do that.
That's a completely valid point. That's why I say in most cases,
you know,
for sure, if you're a celebrity, if you have very
you may
expensive
want all the
home,
listings to be on the internet. Here's the deal. You may want all your listings to be on the internet, but you're not entitled to that.
Right.
You're not entitled to that. Sorry, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but not everybody owes you the privilege of knowing their home is for sale with a realtor. And so if their thing is like, hey, aren't you with EXP? Yes, I'm with EXP. Can you market this to only EXP agents and not put it out there on the internet? Yes, I can do that. Great. That's what I want to do.
The seller,
are you telling me if you were found in that conversation, you would tell that client no?
Right.
Well, it's basically up to the seller. And you're right, Carol. You're very right. That's not the point.
Because I've had sellers say it to me.
Yeah.
I've had sellers say it to me. They did not want the house on the internet. It was a family home from when they were a child, and they didn't want the neighbors squawking at the house because they didn't want to taint their parents' memories in the neighborhood, and the house wasn't in its glory anymore.
Yeah, I remember you saying that, Carol.
So seller, you go in, you don't know that seller's going to request that. What are you? I'm supposed to be like, oh no, I can't do that. What are you, crazy?
No, 100%.
Why would I do that when I know I can actually help this seller? That's how, and I say to them, hey, this might take a little bit of extra time. And they say, I'm okay with that. This is what I want. And so, because obviously now that's a different conversation with the seller, right? You have much different expectations to go over with them, as you should. But are you telling me that I should tell that seller, no, you're not allowed to do that because Zillow said so?
Carol, you're 100% right in what you're saying.
Here's Zillow.
But the thing is, for just in general, if you're trying to steer a seller, that's very different. If you're trying to steer a seller to try to say, oh, this is the best way to do it,
that's
so that you could double end it, and it does happen every single day.
All the time.
That is not the best thing for the seller or to get the highest price.
This recently just happened. So I love that you brought that up because that is so valid, girl. I was recently on a listing appointment. And first of all, sometimes my filter, I'm telling you, it fails me. He says to me, well, you know, I interviewed a few other agents and I was like, oh, thank God, because they always make me look good. Girl, why did that just come out of your face? So she chuckled and we kind of went on with it. During the conversation, she explains to me that the other realtor told her, one of the other realtors told her, oh, and don't worry, we'll market this within our team and broker first so that you don't have to worry about going to market and all this other stuff. And I'm sitting there and again, my face, right? It tells everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, how does that benefit you?
Exactly.
To not have like an open market come and look at your home. And she's like, oh, well, and she kind of agreed with me, but she didn't want to say anything negative. And I appreciated that. Right? Because we are all fellow realtors. But yeah. So that's definitely happening, that there are agents out there who are actively seeking to only have like a listing within their broker or on their team.
Cha-ching.
Right. Yep. And so, you know, imagine the audacity. But here's the thing. I don't worry about that because then I show up on the scene and we ain't doing none of that. Okay. We ain't doing none of that.
Yeah. Yep.
And let me tell you this, and just for the record, by the end of that meeting, she says to me, she goes, "You're right, they do make you look good."
That's awesome. I love that.
Thank you, ma'am.
I love that.
Well, there
That
was
is
little
hilarious.
things in the conversation. She's like,
Yeah.
the other one, they didn't know that. They didn't
Yeah.
know that. They didn't know that. Huh?
You know, in Florida, when we first came out with the form, and it's slipping my mind at the moment. If
The
those of you
MLS
listening,
disclosure.
no, the one that you can't market it for 5 days
Right.
within 24 hours. What is that called again?
I don't know. And we have
Yeah.
different forms in Delaware.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, so they came out with that form probably around I want to say it was like 2019 they came out with it.
Okay.
And it was like everybody was just all up in arms about it because, like, oh my gosh, we weren't allowed to do like the preview or any of that stuff like they were used to, they would be allowed to. But what was awesome is that like now, we're not in that same situation with everybody up north because we were already doing this. But now with Zillow trying to advertise like, okay, yeah, you listed on our website, we can do coming soon, all that. Now I feel like how many agents are now going to actually try to not put it in the MLS and just use Zillow? Some of these like small, especially the smaller brokerages, like who's going to just say, let's forget about the MLS. We don't need the MLS to be a real estate agent.
That's what Zillow wants.
Yeah, we could just use Zillow and then we don't have these rules. We could just say, oh, now I get to put the listing coming soon. And then you're at a listing appointment and Mr. Seller says, well, the agent that I just interviewed right before you said they can put it on Zillow and put it as coming soon and blah, 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 right? So I just feel like that's kind of like what we in Florida might be up against a little bit.
They purchased Showing Time. Zillow did, right? And Showing Time, I don't know if you use the same app in your area, but that's how you set the appointments.
That's what we use.
Right?
Yeah.
So they purchased Showing Time. Yeah, so they
Florida
would love to own the
I used to
MLS.
be in South Florida. They use the same app.
Do that, yeah. So it's crazy to me. Like that's what they want to see happen. They want the MLSs to fail. Like again, it's wild to me that you could go to another industry and they could have an industry regulated software and nobody fights them about it.
Right.
But we have an industry regulated software that we built, that we designed, and that we've perfected. And now they're like, oh, well, we want that.
Right.
I'm sorry, but that's kind of how the world works. We got here first.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, we are the industry. Mm-hmm. You are a .com.
Yep.
Get it together.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's crazy to me how people will be like, oh, well, Zillow said. And sometimes I'm like, the website said that? You know what I mean? Because I want to remind people like what we're talking about here. A random who literally puts into the world that this is information based on inferences with no factual support. Like, do you know how bad I want to print that? I probably will print that and laminate it so I can see it every day. Like that is
bring it on your listing appointments.
See, that's a good idea. You know what I mean? Because what do you mean Zillow said? And you know what else Zillow said? Zillow said none of their information is factual.
Yeah.
And that's their words, not mine.
Yeah.
It's inferences, but it's not factual. Yep. So they're basically the audacity. How do they get away with that? The audacity to give somebody a value on their home that is based on inferences with no factual support. Yeah. When the actual factual support is at your fingertips.
Do you think that, so in a hypothetical world, hypothetical world, do you think that Zillow could ever possibly be shut down?
Zillow's going to own the MLSs.
You think that's coming?
I give it within 5 years. Within 5 years.
Because I was going to say, like, with the IDX, like even like our own personal websites, right? Like we have the IDX feed on ours. So I mean, it's basically what Zillow is doing. But
it's exactly what Zillow is doing.
Yeah, they've marketed it and become more of a powerhouse. Right.
They did it in a much more dynamic way with information that we as realtors can't provide. Because for some crazy reason, there's a law in place that says if a client says to me, hey, is this a good neighborhood? And we're standing where there was a quadruple murder 24 hours ago, I'm not allowed to tell that client.
Right. That. Yeah.
Crazy. Are you kidding me? So you mean to tell me I have to look a single mother of 3 in her face and say, well, you know what? You should drive around here at night.
Yeah.
That's what you want me to do? How did anybody think that was smart? Do you know how bad it breaks my heart to not be able to answer truthfully sometimes? You have put me in a position that by omitting information rather than lying, that is so deceptive. And I really hate that that's the position I'm in. I'm also not allowed to say anything negative about another realtor. Okay. So if I know a realtor, and this is just, off the top of my head, I don't know
To the client, Carol, you
know
could
what I
say it
mean?
all.
Oh, no, I would never, because here's the thing. I don't say anything to my clients
No,
about
I
other
know.
realtors.
I know
I don't
that.
have to. They make me look good, right? I don't have to. It's just wild to me that, like, I can't. So if I know something, like if there's a male realtor who crazily got through on his license and I know he's raped somebody, I can't tell a client, don't let Joe Schmo in your house. Oh, you have a meeting with this guy? Ooh, you might want to look at his criminal record first. I'm not allowed to say that.
Yeah.
Do you know how
That's crazy.
absolutely ridiculous that is?
That's
Right.
crazy.
And it wouldn't happen because I know they do a background check on realtors. It's just an example. It's just like, there's just things that don't make sense to me sometimes.
Yeah.
My brain goes, what?
Yeah. So in your prediction, Carol, like you say that Zillow
In
is
5
going
years.
to own the
Yep,
MLS.
they're gonna own it.
Do you think the like realtor associations are going to unravel from this as well?
I think you've got a couple things going on. Okay, so let's roll this back. I do think Zillow is going to own the MLSs. I think the MLS is going to be it's going to be slowly chomped up like Pac-Man across the America, and they're going to buy up the MLSs. They're going to turn it into a national database.
So rather than having like Stellar MLS or whatever, your
Right,
Delaware.
you're going to just have a national database, and everything is going to be uniform. That's what I see in the future. Because houses in Florida are marketed in the same exact format as houses in California right now. Everything is formatted the same. I see them 100% buying the MLSs. That's going to happen within the next 5 years.
I agree with you.
I would be shocked if it doesn't, based on the last 5 years, what the next 5 years. And because I'm sure they have a visionary in there somewhere who's forward thinking enough to go, hey, if we do this, we can do this.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless
Now,
some visionary becomes like the next
it's possible. It's possible, but there's not enough room in the marketplace right now for another person to try and fight their way up the ladder. Realtor.com, Homes.com, and Zillow are at war. They have been for years. To try and jump into that ring at this point would kind of be an immature move. Like, it would just not be well thought. It would be a waste of money. You might as well open your front door and throw it to the wind. You're going to be better. Unless you're not looking to make a lot of money. If you're just like, hey, I just want to make $100,000 a year, then you probably could.
Yeah. Or what about AI? How AI could maybe if somebody like dabbles into that and utilizes that as a search tool and becomes bigger than Zillow because Zillow didn't think in that direction. I don't know.
Interesting.
Based on what they have done in the last 5 years, the growth that Zillow has experienced in the last 5 years has been exponential. I don't really pay a lot of attention to Zillow, but when you hit my headlines, I kind of read things and then I just keep it moving. And in the last 5 years, they've accomplished a lot. So I see the next 5 years, like I said. Well, you can't tell me that you've done everything that you've done and you didn't have AI already working on your behalf.
True. Yeah.
You ain't got nobody that smart working for you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You're Zillow.
Yeah.
You're a website. Okay. You don't see Einstein running to apply at Zillow.
Yeah.
So who did it? The AI that Einstein designed. That's who did it. So I'm sure somewhere in that program, in that model that they're spitting out, there's something in there about, AI expanding its ability.
Be their next thing.
Right. Expanding their ability. So it's going to happen and it's going to layer out. So I definitely see them buying the MLSs. They've already bought showing time. They already control who's looking at what.
Yeah. That's really interesting that they did that because that's a key app that we use that collaborates with our MLSs.
They cracked the door right there.
Yep.
They cracked the door. They were looking for a way in and they found it. They cracked the door. Now they've got a foot in the game. Now you got a foot in the game.
Will they charge realtors money to list properties in there?
Well, I don't know that they're going to charge us the same as the MLS does.
Yeah.
Is it going to go up? I don't know. We'll see about that. But here's the thing. Again, what is Zillow doing? They're scaling their business.
Yeah.
They are scaling their business. So they probably have a couple people in the background who have a strong sales background. Remember, because you're working around all realtors, there's a couple sharp attacks in that box and they rolled in. Are they the most smartest people? No. But do they see how to make money? Yes. And those, my friend, are two very different sets of eyes.
Right.
Very different sets of eyes. You can have a set of eyes and walk that corporate path, but very rarely would you come across somebody with the eyes that can walk the corporate path and the eyes who see the real money. Those two things don't mix. So they got people who see the money and they got AI doing the rest of it. That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
Here, folks. Yep.
That's my opinion. I'm just saying from the outsider looking in, I'm like, okay, they're getting ready. So they're going to probably do this on a national level, right? Because they're scaling. So how much is that? First of all, having one MLS that you have control over automatically probably doubles their income from the number of clicks that they're going to get, right? Because now the clicks that you're getting inside the MLSs are going to now be owned by Zillow.
Right.
And they're going to have an ad in your face every click. So that is probably more than double, right? So even if you apply the 80-20 rule, like you're probably more than double.
Yeah.
And then from there, you got to add for the fact that they're probably going to also have now all the clicks from the realtors.
Yeah.
Right. So that's an added click batch that they otherwise will never have access to. Now, how many realtors do you have across the country? Right. How many times a week are you in your MLS doing what you got to do? And they're going to now have an ad in your face to do it.
Yeah.
Like it just makes sense. You can see the writing is on the wall. They're going to end up taking their value. It's going to skyrocket once they start opening that door and people can see the future. You're going to watch that start to go up. It's just my opinion. You know what I mean? I'm over here. I don't got a special degree. I've been in business for literally 40 years of my life. I was in business when I was 10 years old, selling pocketbooks and spices at a flea market. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you, I see the money, so I know somebody else sees the money. It's there, and that's what they're going after. Because don't forget, they get paid by clicks. So now they're going to get paid by clicks, and they're going to charge us to have access to it. Because here's ultimately, what do they get? Think about it. Ultimately, look, the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. Ultimately, what do they get? They get a bunch of people to pay them to do the work. Because we're the jerk-offs putting the MLS, we're putting the listings in.
Right.
So they get free labor to keep the MLS updated. Think about how brilliant of a business plan that is. Come on, man. Come on, man. I'm sitting back like, okay, listen. And I don't even get paid to think about this, so I'm just thinking about it now for the first time. But I'm like, that's a brilliant business plan. That's a brilliant business plan. And what are we going to do? We're going to say, take my money, because we are realtors and we need access to certain information for our clients. I guarantee. And then they can expand from there. Now you'll see a transaction coordination team nationwide because they're Zillow. You know what I'm saying? Like, they'll just start putting their hand in all the pots. It's possible it would grow to owning a brokerage.
Yeah, I was going to say Zillow agents coming soon. Yeah, sign me up.
It's possible at that point. Now because they could just buy like Remax, keep the Remax branding, but be the people collecting the paycheck.
Yeah. Well, they already were a brokerage. I mean, they already had listings. I saw.
Yeah, it's just you can see like there's a progression and it's all taking place.
And they have that mortgage arm already. So
that mortgage. My client went to the settlement table and there was like $5,000 or $6,000 in fees that were never disclosed.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy is he asked her about that while I was with him. And he was like, hey, I'm reading all these reviews and they're saying there was fees. And she says, no, we only charge you $1,500.
Okay.
But yeah. Are you kidding me with that? Like, yeah, that's what she said to him. Oh, no, we only charge $1,500. And then when we got to the settlement table, none of the numbers were the same. It was more money. It was, and what's your client going to do at that point? They're not walking away. They've put all their eggs in this basket. We're past inspections. We're past packing boxes. We're past making sure the nanny's got the kids while we move. Like we're at settlement. We're supposed to be getting them keys today. And there's extra money on the settlement sheet. Are you kidding me? Yeah. And we got notice, so he had to stop at the bank on the way and get a second cashier's check, I think. I don't remember how he had to pay it, but he had to pay it.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? It's deceptive business practices, and it's sad.
Yeah.
It's very sad, because as somebody who's been in different businesses for 30 years, you don't have to lie to anybody.
So after she changed everything and the fees and all that, did you wait the 3 days? Or
No, I've had 2 clients in the last year that happened to, and it's 100% illegal. And the second lender it happened with was so egregious. And then this guy has the audacity, because 2 hours before closing, this is another client who is begging for his CD so he can go and get a check, a cashier's check to go to the closing. This guy shows up at closing with a CD with additional thousands of dollars in additional fees, because he didn't understand the programs that he had referred this client to. This program required the client to have a certain monetary contribution towards the purchase. We had done everything up until this point with a couple $1,000s. Well, that did not meet the requirement of the program that this client had already accepted the money from. So it cleaned out his account to be able to buy this house. But he looked at me and he's like, what am I going to do? I already gave notice at my apartment. My entire life is packed up and in boxes. My dog is in the back of the car already. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah. Puts people, they're back against the wall.
Girl, we got to that settlement and that lender said something to me and I told him, I said, I don't appreciate that you're here doing this to this man on his closing day. There are laws in place to protect consumers from this exact thing for a reason. For you to come in here with thousands of dollars and then sit here and waste everybody's time so you can get the proper documents signed is absurd. And I really feel like the client probably just wants to sign so we can move on. And at that point, my client goes, I just want to sign so we can move on. And you're like, he was the best. And when he left, the seller, because I had the buyer at this, the seller said to me, wow, I have never seen anybody defend their client so eloquently as you did. And thank you for doing that. And I was like, no problem. Here's my card. If you ever need to sell another property, feel free to reach
out. Oh my God.
I didn't do that. That would be so slimy.
So funny.
But yeah, that's happened twice. Nobody cares about the law. That's the problem. Nobody cares. The only time anybody cares is when it's like a senator's daughter got screwed over at a closing table. Now all of a sudden somebody cares. You know, the president's daughter had a bad experience. Now somebody cares. You or I have a bad experience. They don't care. I got literal proof that the one lender lied to the banking commission in my case. Okay, I have literal written proof on the company's letterhead. And they don't care. They do not care. No. I'm still dealing with it. Nobody cares unless it affects somebody who has somebody in that case.
It's the enforcement arm. There's not really anybody to enforce these things, unfortunately.
That's a completely unacceptable reason that nobody is enforcing these things.
I agree. But
it's outrageous.
That's a reality, unfortunately.
And when you say something to people, you know, they're like, oh, well,
they look at you like you're the crazy one.
Like you're the crackhead. That's right. The medical field. They want you to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you have a right to be spoken to in layman's terms so that you understand that's everything that's happening with your treatment. Yet nobody has defined layman's terms in the medical field. So what they do is they train their staff that the staff member that you are dealing with is supposed to assess what they think your level of intelligence is and speak to you appropriately.
Well, that's kind of what Zillow is doing, bringing it back. Like,
I mean, because they are also doing inferences not based on factual anything. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So anyway, nobody cares. That's why they get away with it. That's why Zillow's getting away with what they're doing. Because what's going to happen at this point is they don't care. They have made enough money now. They got bail money. They got bail money. They'll write you the check and keep it moving. They got bail money. So will that be the fault of the Board of Realtors? I think you got a couple things going on with the Board of Realtors. The biggest thing that's happened to me was right before they made their landmark agreement with the DOJ, the real president of NAR had been blackmailed into resigning. She was a female. She was blackmailed and she was told, if you don't resign, we're going to release information that you don't want people to know about. And so what did she do? She resigned. And then whoever the guy is that went in right after her, he got appointed. And then within 3 months, he made an agreement with the Department of Justice. So on what planet do you think I'm stupid enough to believe that all of that wasn't somehow related?
Yeah.
Do you know? And I'm not a mathematician. I would love if one could chime in somehow. But like statistically, what is the probability? Can I get a Sheldon in the crowd to tell me, okay, what is the statistical probability of that? I would love to know.
Yeah.
I mean, Carol, you were on a roll tonight.
Yeah.
Girl, I am so heated. Let me tell you a little bit about being a successful realtor. You want to talk about successful people problems? You will reach a point in your career where you have to start firing clients because some people are not ready to deal with a professional. The audacity for me to drive an hour and a half to show you a property and you to show up late and giggle about it sent me today. And so I have been a wrecking ball all day. Okay. Yeah. Because let me tell you what, and then we're leaving and they're like, oh, you're just going to leave. And I said, well, you know, some of us drove an hour and a half to be here on time and I kept it moving. She tried to call me.
You know who else is leaving? Me. We all are because that wraps up our time today.
What?
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Thank you for hanging out with us in the lounge. This is now going to be the Carol Show.
Yeah. Oh,
Join us next time.